Hello, Professor Ha. My name is Jalen Palmer, and today I'll be discussing about the educational and racial challenges our society faces today. A little background about my essay. I had wrote about how the education system and the racial aspects of our society greatly impact each other. And our society, we put a lot of emphasis on education in order to be successful and to have a good paying job. But one of the problems is, in order to be successful in our job, we have to be able to adapt to other cultures if the job requires us to move, and also be flexible with others. And that's one problem that our education system lacks is being able to talk about it or teach it in the classroom, and that impacts the individuals greatly. And when we lack the understanding of other cultures, it leads to the stereotypes that we have today in our society. It's difficult to talk about in the classroom or in public in general. And it also impacts the individual in the classroom and outside of the classroom when we lack that understanding of different cultures, because there's a lot of stereotypes and judging of others when we don't understand other people's cultures. So, first, I kind of want to talk about how it impacts the individuals. And it can impact the individual in the classroom or outside the classroom. And so I want to talk about how it impacts the students in the classroom, since I will be discussing about the education system. So first, there was an article called Race in General, the Cognitive Ability, the Myths of Diminishing Returns to Education, that was written by Joel Myerson, Mark Rank, and Mark Schnitzel in 1998. That was that did a study on high school students that graduated between black and white students, and college students that graduated between white and black students. And what they saw was that the black students and the white students that only graduated high school, their cognitive ability was there was a very huge gap between the black and white students. And one of the issues was they saw that the black students performed below the white students in the testing. And so then they went on and tested the college students, and they noted that the college students, they still had a gap between each other, and the white students still performed better than the black students, but the cognitive ability of the black students had increased since they had graduated college, and it wasn't as low as when they were in high school. And when we take a look at the data, we could see that one of the reasons that they may have increased their cognitive ability may be because of the fact that there's more opportunity and resources for them once they're in college, and they can take advantage of that. Since there are very few minorities in college, but it is increasing nowadays. But back then, it may not have been as many minority students. And so, since there's very few minority students in college and there's a lot of resources, they take advantage of that. And then they also take advantage of the education system that they have in college. So it increases their learning and they're increasing their cognitive ability. So now I also want to talk about how there are a lot of minority students that are gifted and underrepresented because of the fact that in our society today, the white culture is the dominant culture in our society, and so they will see themselves as the smarter and superior one compared to the minority students or the minority cultures in general. And they see that minority students or minority people are lower educated and they're not as smart as the white culture or the white students. And so there was a article that was analyzed, article called "Gifted Education and Culturally Different Students," written by Donna Ford, Michelle Scott, James III, and Stanford Arnolds, and they analyzed how minority students, primarily Black and Hispanic students, are underrepresented when they are gifted. And some of the reasons that they found that the that are gifted and their minorities are underrepresented is because of the fact there's a lot of stereotypes in our society, and the stereotypes could lead to microaggressions. And what microaggressions are, some of the things that we do that may seem intentional or unintentional, like we may not pay attention to its little gestures or communications that we may do to others. And so they noted that in microaggressions, there are three different types of microaggressions, which are micro assaults, micro insults, and micro invalidations. An example of micro assaults would be if somebody made a racist joke, which you could clearly see that is an intentional act towards somebody, but they may say the racist joke, but then say they didn't mean it. A micro insult would be the verbal or nonverbal communication. And so, an example that Scott Ford, Moore the Third, and Arnos, uh, 2013, an example that they had gave was if a gifted black student was accepted into a gifted program, and somebody said that they only got accepted because of the fact that they felt bad that he was the only black student. So they're saying that he got accepted because of the color of his skin, not because he was actually smart. And the last microaggression that is available is micro invalidation. And micro invalidation is the act towards somebody or an individual to denote them and make them feel like they're really not as smart as they think they are. And an example would be um, gifted students are smart, but then a teacher would ask them, did they do this on their own or did they get help from somebody else? And that's a micro invalidation, basically believing that they didn't do it themselves. So a lot of reasons that we have the stereotypes is because it is passed on from generations. It's just been in our history of our society. And so in order for us to overcome the difficulties of talking about race or the stereotypes that we must have that in our education system to talk about it. And we must become more culturally diverse so we could get rid of the stereotypes. And in order for us to do that, we should learn it at a young age. And so in the article, Do Diversity Experience Help College Students Become More Civically Minded, written by Darnell Cole and Ji Zhao in 2013, which they studied if being culturally diverse would help the college students or people in general. And they took a look at the traditional sociological theories and studied them and noted that many of the stereotypes that we have are socially rooted and they're passed down. So we need to open our minds and get the students more education about other cultures, and it could get rid of the stereotypes. And they also noted that if we start teaching it at a young age, such as in middle school, it will also help the students later on, and it could eliminate all the stereotypes and discrimination that occurs in our society today, because adolescent stages and adulthood is the most important stage of learning. And when we're finding ourselves and others, that's when we communicate with others and social interact with others the most is adulthood and adolescent stages. And so one factor that is going to affect us greatly in teaching it in the classroom is how teachers have to come about it and faculty members and what difficulties they will face when it comes to teaching it in the classroom or discussing it in the classroom. And so one thing that we also face, or primarily what teachers face, is it is very difficult to talk about in the classroom since the classrooms nowadays are very culturally diverse. There's students from all over the world that are sitting in a lecture room, and there's everybody come from different countries. And so one issue is they have to find a way to teach it. So an article called Toward a Race of Pedagogy for Black Faculty that was written by Rosemary Clausen, Lorenzo Bowman, and Lisa Merriweather, they had studied how faculty members are faced with a difficulty of teaching about different cultures because of the fact that it is hard to discuss it, and it may affect the students. They may take it the wrong way. And so teachers have to find a way to talk about it to where it's comfortable for the classroom and they can have a discussion about it so they can have a better understanding of other cultures. But some may take it offensively. So they wanted to see some of the difficulties, which is trying to talk about it and find a comfortable way to bring it up in the classroom so nobody feels like they're being targeted or they feel guilty about because they might have done something, so they don't want to feel guilty when they talk about race in the classroom. So one thing that the education system needs to do is work on how they could teach it or put it into the curriculum to teach about different cultures so students could get a better understanding of other races and they'll be more culturally diverse. So in conclusion, in order for us to overcome the stereotypes that we have in our society and to make us more culturally diverse and to have the job we want and to be successful in the job, we have to get rid of the stereotypes. And it all starts with our education system and try to implement the teaching of different cultures and races into the curriculum or just have a discussion about it in the classroom so other students and other individuals can get a better understanding of other cultures.